Hi, and welcome back to Guff Stuff Weekly Podcast. I'm Javen.
I'm Guff.
Today, we're going to talk about a few different things.
Yeah.
But first thing we're going to start the agenda off with is happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Hope
Uh,
you had a good Christmas and hopefully good New Year's.
when this episode comes out, it should be hopefully after the new year.
Probably.
So I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for listening to us this year.
Yeah.
Had quite a bit of support from people that I know personally and
Yeah.
online.
Just for the. It's not like we're putting a ton of like advertisements or anything like that. We're just kind of winging it, trying to get our. I don't know how long it takes to get your groove or get to the whatever it is you're looking for. But I know at some point everything will start clicking, and I think we're getting close to that point.
Yeah, I mean,
So
2023 was a year of. I moved back to the area. I heard you were doing a podcast kind of off and on.
yeah,
And then we both kind of just agreed to like, hey, let's meet every Thursday and
right.
record a podcast.
Yeah.
And so this year's been a trial of that. I think we've stuck pretty good to it.
Yeah.
Gotten a lot of episodes put up.
Yeah, if it wasn't for, family illnesses or me being ill,
Yep.
I think we would have had a lot more episodes this year. But I think that next year, I think we're going to probably make bigger strides. And I think that we are going to add a couple platforms to the thing, which I haven't done. I've been wanting to add YouTube as a platform, maybe even add some video for the YouTube platform.
Yeah.
And then, but baby steps.
Yep, that's all just stuff. The main thing to do our goal this year was to kind of just, like you said, get our foot in the door and get our groove, get our content going.
Yeah, get content out.
So,
I liked when you guys did stuff with Connor.
Oh yeah,
I like the Twitch streamer guys, and I think that was kind of cool. I think it'd be having fun to have more guests.
Yeah, and I hope we have more guests again this year. Thanks to everybody that appeared on the podcast this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was great fun to have not just us two idiots on here.
Right.
So, anyways,
yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because I don't know if you haven't been paying attention. Obviously, I'm considerably older than Javen. A generation above him, anyway. I don't know. Considerably older is probably a whatever.
You're old enough to maybe be my dad.
I'm old enough to be your dad. Yeah. So we do bring different perspectives towards most of our conversations. He's more of a closer to the millennial.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely a Gen X guy. And so we have different perspectives on things just because our lives are different. Mm-hmm. So, but he has some different interests than I do too. So that helps too with the. He's a much more music head type of guy. Yeah. I like music. I like listening to it. I don't like performing it. So I think it's been kind of fun to just learn about Javen and learn about how his quirks and triggers.
So. Let's expand.
Speaking of triggers,
yeah, let's expand on that a little bit because I feel like this is a good start of the year episode. Why don't we talk a little bit, do maybe a recap?
Yeah,
and talk about where we come from in gaming. What we do for gaming, and what some of our experiences are.
Fair enough.
Maybe a short bio for each of us.
There you go.
To just kind of bring in the new year and refresh everybody about kind of where we come from.
That works. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start. I'm a Gen X, so I'm about 50 years old, give or take a couple of years. My gaming started a long time ago. I grew up poor as poor.
Yeah.
White trailer trash. That's kind of how I grew up. And that, no offense to my mother, she worked hard to keep us. We had food and clothes. But one thing Mom always did do for us is make sure that we always had gaming.
Okay.
Because she always wanted her kids to enjoy the camaraderie that it brought, whether it was in front of video games or board games or card games.
Okay.
We did that. It was almost a religion. Every weekend, go to one of the family members' houses and play games.
Cool.
So we've always done that. Even at home, we played tons of board games at home. And she worked at a place that they got a bonus every year, so she made sure that we had, I would like to say, the latest console every year. Starting back from the Atari 7800 Super System or 7200, one of the numbers. And, I mean, we had a Pong version too, but, I mean, she kept up on that the best she could. And so she just knew it was the technology was going that way and that you might as well get on it while we were there, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how I've taken my approach to everything. I think that I didn't necessarily grow up with it all the time, but I did have games. Like gaming has just always been part of my life, which dumbfounds me because we do get people coming into the store that if it's not a video game, they don't understand that how do you exist.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up playing board games and tabletop RPGs, so
Well, and that honestly it shows too because like I kind of did the same thing. I got into gaming kind of late.
yep.
Um, Not to interrupt your story.
No.
Like
I was pretty much done.
I'm just
So
gonna like expand
yep,
on like maybe comment on it a little bit,
absolutely.
and that is like I noticed that like your go-to idea for like a time killer is kind of tabletop role-playing games
Right.
or a social game
Yeah.
more or less.
Right.
Where I feel like most people, like the people that come in for video games and stuff, like I think about my father and like he was for a long time, like
Right.
his downtime was, watch TV.
Right.
And that's what that's I mean that's probably the pastime of 50 to 60% of
Yeah.
all Americans
Yeah. Exactly.
is watch TV.
Yeah.
But
That my parents are the same way.
yeah, and like so gaming, like if I like, hey, you want to play a game of
Yeah.
cards or something, and it's like usually there's got to be a group of people to do it.
Right.
It's not usually just him and I.
Right. Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like it probably benefited you in the long run because now your go-to game isn't um watching TV. Your
No.
entertainment isn't just watching TV. It's
No.
actually like painting miniatures or talking
Right.
and gaming with people.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I like to watch TV. I almost feel it's like a luxury now. If I can go sit on the couch, hang out with the dog or the cat or whoever, maybe the kid is just sitting on the couch watching TV with me. For all three of us in our house right now to sit and watch TV together. When I was a kid, we would do that on the non-weekends. That was my mom's choice of thing was watch TV.
Okay.
Um, but we still played plenty of board games during the day. But the TV was definitely her fallback.
Right.
Now, for all of us to watch TV would be just dumbing. It would
Right.
kind of I don't even know what I'd do if everybody just says, "Hey, let's watch a TV together." I mean, we do when we go to movies. I know you don't know nothing about movie theaters.
No,
You don't go.
I don't go to movie theater.
You're not allowed in them, I guess. But yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely it's a generational thing. I know my dad is his fallbacks watch TV.
Yeah.
He doesn't mind playing card games and stuff, but he'd throw a good movie in.
The default is
throw a good
fall
movie
asleep halfway through a movie.
Yeah. I like to my default is definitely something hobby related. I've always kind of been that way, and
That's cool.
I kind of give credit to my mother for that. She kind of pushed that on us, and man, I don't regret it at all.
Yeah.
So how about you?
Well, I've always been into games. I think the first console I remember getting like us owning
Yeah,
was an N64,
There you
Super
go.
Mario
not a
64,
bad console.
and that was like the best. And then my aunt went we went to the quote unquote big city
Yeah,
shopping
yeah,
one weekend close to my brother's birthday, and she was my brother's godmother, and so
Right.
for his birthday she bought him a Game Boy and
Oh,
Pokemon Gold
so there you go.
at Walmart at the time, and he was so excited. Everything was stoked, and my parents were like, "Crap,"
Oh no, here we go.
because if one of us got something really nice, the other one always got something. There was no favorites played,
Right,
and so the whole car ride home, they'd known I wouldn't have had anything to play.
right,
So they got me a Game Boy Color at the same time and Pokemon Red
right.
because our birthdays are about a month apart.
Okay,
And so basically that was the deal, right? It was
Right.
like it was like close to my birthday time. His was a little bit later. So she bought it for him for his birthday, but I got one for my birthday. So it just worked out in the end. And so I had Pokemon Red and I grew up playing in Kanto region, and he got Pokemon Gold and he grew up playing in the Johto region.
there you go.
And so we had this disconnect between us in gaming for the whole time.
Right,
And we played the hell out of those Game Boy Colors.
right.
We had the little snake lights
Yep.
to plug in.
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
could play it.
We got one for my son.
So we didn't have the car light on.
He also had the little flip down magnifying glass.
I never did get one of
No,
those.
yeah,
I
he
did
had
have
those.
a grip extender for it though.
That'd be nice. I'd never even seen one of
They
those.
were pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, It was a Game Boy Color is what we got. It wasn't
Yep.
the original Game Boy.
Yep.
And then yeah, just ever since then, like we were both fairly into gaming. I hit it a little harder than he did. And then, we got a GameCube, and basically I was a Nintendo gamer for as long as I can remember. And then I got my first PC.
Right.
And my brother never did PC gaming very much, but I saw games on the PC that I wanted really
I
badly.
really want that. Yeah.
And so I learned how to hot rod my own PC and everything. And I got into it honestly pretty young, probably about 13, 14 years old.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good age. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of PCs.
But I was also very good at like taking care of my stuff.
Right.
I mean, accidents happen here and there, obviously, but like I was pretty good about taking care of my stuff. So like my parents were fine. My brother was too. We had instilled into us, you take care of what you get.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You're not going to get another one,
Yeah. No.
Unless if like some extreme circumstances happened, and like it got busted or whatever. Because we were fairly like middle class, so we had like we didn't want for anything really.
Right.
And then high school rolled around and I got into a game called Magic.
Oh yeah.
I bought some cards. I was big into Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I bought some Magic cards from a buddy of mine, and I never looked back.
That was it.
I was I'm like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is trash. Magic's where it's at. And yeah, so basically all throughout high school, college, in between, I played Magic, and then D&D came into the picture, and I started playing tons of D&D. And I have the type of personality where if I play something or pick something up, I learn everything about it
right
as quickly as possible, and then try to achieve mastery in whatever it is I'm doing. Right. It's like a super hyper focused.
Next thing you know, you're looking into hundreds of all of a sudden there's not just D&D, there's hundreds of other.
Yeah, and I think I was one of the first people in our group to like recommend playing something not D&D.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know like I've played other RPGs and I thought they were fun, but they're so few and far between, and they don't have the depth that D&D has. Mm-hmm. I mean, the history, I should say, maybe not depth.
Yeah.
There's not very many systems out there that could say they have
the backlog that D&D
1974 has. A backlog of stuff to work off of.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And so, to get people into RPGs, we've always just kind of stuck with D&D
and I actually leaned. I didn't play D&D for many years. All I did was play indie games and other games, and I learned that style of DMing where you basically just rip off other people's stuff.
Right.
Like, oh, hey, this episode of this TV show is really cool. I want to do something about that.
Yeah.
Or I like this obscure sci-fi novel. Let's do something about that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my gaming has always been. I've always been more of a creator when it comes to gaming.
Right.
But like fast and loose style. I usually go like based off of something. And so that's kind of what we bring to the table as this podcast. That's kind of our
it's definitely just a little bit. I've lived a fairly long life. I've been married for quite a while. Had 2 kids, and so I'm at a different point in life. But one thing that brings everybody together, as I've said 100 times over, it doesn't matter what age you are. You can have a 10-year-old, which I literally know because I've had. Well, my daughter was 7 when she started playing. A 7-year-old to a 100-year-old, and you can play these games together.
Yeah, it's all the same language.
It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what your age is. You can sit down and play a game.
Because if you're 7, kicking down a door and smacking a goblin with an axe, it's just as cool as if you're 100.
Exactly. No, I haven't played with a 100-year-old yet, but I hope one day if I get to that point, I'll be playing with Javen at some point. He might be doing most of the work, and I'll be pretty old by that point.
I remember at one point, I think I was like 19.
Yep.
And I played a session with a couple buddies of mine who I gamed with regularly, and their buddies from further south came up. And the one guy, I think, was in his 70s.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he was just as into it as the 13-year-old kid they brought.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like there was no disconnect there. Like,
no, if you know, you know, and that's kind of why I thought maybe starting a podcast. Even we do video games. Yes, we talk about video games, but that's just one of those things. It's hard to be a gamer and not like play video games. It really is.
And we don't really want to like limit our scope. I know we talked a lot about video games in the latter latter 3 months of
I think a lot of that has to do with we've been pushing a lot of our Discord.
yeah,
We've been building up
what we've been
clientele
playing.
up,
Yeah.
and like at least with the store for me, my goal is to make sure that we have a gaming community, and that has to include video games.
Yeah, and
You can't.
let's talk about that a little bit too, because it's come up in conversation in the podcast a few times, but I don't think we've ever like explicitly explained it.
Right.
You say you're a store owner. What do you mean by that?
Well, I own a brick and mortar store that is basically started off as a basically Magic the Gathering store
Yeah.
with some Warhammer stuff.
Yeah.
And then I sold used video games. I had a thrift store at the time too.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when I brought that over to the new place where we're at now, well, the old place, the new place, whatever, but where our location is now, I got rid of most of the thrift stuff. I kept the video games for a while. I just found that the used video games brings sometimes the wrong clientele
Okay.
for what you want for tabletop gaming.
Right.
And yes, you'll get plenty of people that are family people that just looking for used video games. But I did find that you got some of the more unscrupulous type of people,
Okay.
more shady people. Hey, I got 3 Xboxes. You want to trade?
Yeah.
Like, why do you have 3
why do you
of
have
them?
3?
Like, I'll sell them for $20 a piece, And so I kind of got out of that because I just really wanted to focus on the gaming community, and we have, and we've built up a fairly big community.
It's fairly healthy.
It's a fairly healthy community, and it's funny because even a couple days ago, I've always said that almost anybody who's been here for any amount of time, when they come through town, stop and hang out, even if it's just for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And we just had a friend of ours, Loco, do that just
Yeah.
2 days ago.
Yeah. So
it's like, I seen you guys here. I got to hang out.
This is a guy who moved to the same town I lived in for several years before I came back.
Right.
And we were in the same gaming community for many years.
Yeah.
And he came through to visit family, and he stopped in to visit the store when we were here because we're more or less family.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how it has been. And I guess when I started this, that's kind of what I was hoping for, because I know in my 20s, if I would have had a gaming store to go to and not just hang out at people's houses, everybody was always kind of juggling who to play at, whose house to play at.
Yeah.
If I had a gaming store, I'd still be living in that gaming store. I probably would have never got married. Well, maybe I would have got married, but I'd still be in that gaming store gaming.
Well, and it's a big testament too to the community, because
absolutely.
A prime example is like tabletop wargaming. There's not many places you can go to do that.
Right.
And doing it on someone's kitchen table, you end up playing at that person's house all the time. And then if you have problems with that person, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So now what we've been doing is at this gaming store, a few of us who run events, you've given keys to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can come in on off hours, open up the store,
just play
games and invite people in to play games, and we're kind of responsible for the store when we're here.
Yep, absolutely.
And you only give it to people you trust.
Yeah.
But it's also encouraged the growth of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't be here 24/7.
No, I don't want to be. Like, this is my primary deal. I love doing this, but on the other hand, I do have a wife at home and kids.
Yeah, you need to take a break.
I gotta go do stuff like that too,
So, but we've gotten people who maybe only ever played video games, but like were interested in Warhammer.
Yeah.
Come in, sit in on a few sessions, and now they're valued members of the community.
Yeah. Or come in and, I don't really have anybody to hang out with.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll just sit here and hang out, get to know these people. All of a sudden, bam, they're tight.
Next thing you know, they're in the group. Yeah.
This is funny because, you just don't know who's coming through the door.
Yeah.
You really don't. Over the years, there's been a lot of people come through, and you can't really judge initially.
No, you have to get the benefit of the doubt to everybody.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of the regulars do that.
Yeah. I can't
think of anybody that would be like, oh, no, you don't belong here.
No, in fact, we just had new kids start playing board games with us. A younger guy.
Gamer Joe.
No, yeah, Gamer Joe. Yep. Yeah, I think he's 15. His dad had stopped in here with him and asked if we do open board game nights. I said, yeah, we do. And I said, I'm not here for him, but the other group is. So just come and get to know these guys. I said, pretty soon you'll be in here all the time. And by golly gee, there he is. He came in and played board games.
Got another player now.
He was here right up until the end.
Good.
The Minnesota goodbyes, he was right at the end of it. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, I guess. That's another thing. Yeah, we've worked hard. Javen's worked really hard too. And Javen's I'm not going to tell you this too many times, but it's pretty important because he's got a broad knowledge of a lot of games, and he's willing to play anything. I swear to people, if I had brought in something silly like Candyland, and it was me, Javen, and somebody else who wanted to play it may be somebody else and I want to play Candyland, and Javen would be like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, we'll play." I mean, it's just because he loves the game, and that's huge. You need those ambassadors for the sport.
Yeah, and I've always tried to be a decent ambassador, and I've always tried to tackle like games that might be difficult to learn and stuff like that. Games that like people look at and are like, "Oh, this is so like
right.
This is too
overwhelming."
Much.
Yeah,
overwhelming.
Yeah,
and like we'll just chomp into it, me and a couple of the other guys, and we'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
And we'll learn the rules, we'll learn the strategies, we'll tell people too. If I'm playing a game with somebody,
right,
and they're having a rough time and they're not really enjoying it, they know they're losing, or something like that, and I'm like, "Do you want some advice?"
Right.
And then they'll be like, "Yeah, or sometimes it'll be, "No, I don't want any advice," and then I just leave them be. And there's, that's a big part of it too, is like sharing the knowledge that you have of a game with other gamers. That's what the brick and mortar stores are all about.
Yeah, I think a lot of people miss that, and I don't mean necessarily are we like we have a great group of people for the most part. I think I've seen in other communities, or I pay attention to a lot of different groups because I was part of a lot of Facebook groups with a lot of different gaming stores in the country. So it was a huge deal right up until COVID hit.
Right.
And I spent hours and hours and hours scouring through their topics. They would talk about this all the time. They were looking. Some of these places are big enough; they'd have to hire. The owner couldn't do it, so he'd hire. Like you, if I ever got big enough, I'd say, "Javen, I have to pay you to be here to game."
Yeah.
Because they couldn't find. They were having problems finding people that were willing to communicate with other people and didn't feel awkward communicating with new people, because that's a pretty big deal. You get a lot of gamers. I know you know this. You get into some groups in the Warhammer clique. They want nothing to do with the Magic clique because they're Warhammer guys. They don't.
Yeah, it's and like, but yeah. There's so much gatekeeping in a lot of the community and stuff, and we preach this all the time. You gotta be welcoming to players. You might not like the person, you might not enjoy them.
Yeah,
but you have to be welcoming to everybody. Like, you can't play favorites.
No,
you just can't, because at the end of the day, when it boils down to it, the guy you might not like to play with so much, he might be here every time and be ready to play.
Yeah.
Where the guy that you want to play with all the time, he can only play once every 6 months.
Yeah, maybe that's his schedule.
And that's his schedule. So 6 months. You know what? Find a common ground, maybe lay down some ground rules, talk to the guy, communicate.
Yeah.
And try to figure something out, because most people are so passionate about tabletop gaming and board gaming and Magic and all this, that they're willing to bend and flex a little bit and compromise to meet middle ground so everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah, a good example would be Gamer Joe.
Yeah.
Is like, he is on the, like, it's really funny. Guy works at a pretty big company around us and is educated in what he's doing, and he's fairly well versed in what he's doing. But he is a little awkward with the community. But like, he come in one day and asked, "Hey, what do you guys do? Blah, blah, blah. Warhammer this." Talked a little bit about that because we knew he had a little bit of knowledge on that stuff.
Yep.
And he's like, "So what do I do to get in on a game?" I said, "Just hang out.
Yep.
Come in for a few sessions. These are the days we got gaming sessions. Most DMs are open as long as you're not being disruptive."
Yep.
And by golly gee, here he is. He's in the groups. But the funny thing is when you just do this for gaming, I would say Gamer Joe is about as far different in the political world than I am.
Yeah.
He's about as far away from me as possible, other than being a Nazi, maybe.
Yeah.
But you know what? We game and it doesn't matter. Because generally it doesn't matter.
Aside. Yeah.
We just don't. I mean, we do have our political discussions in the store on occasion. And sometimes some of us, provoke it.
But you could set that aside and play a different person in a game that isn't tied to your core.
Right, yeah, no, exactly.
And that's the beauty of role-playing games and all these other tabletops.
And as long as you get that out of your head that, well, okay, I don't like Gamer Joe because of his political beliefs. Well, so what? He's still a human.
Honestly.
And when we sit down and play games, it's fine.
This might be like a little cheesy, but gaming can heal the world.
Oh, no, I agree 100%.
Because you have to set aside your differences to kill a dragon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, yeah, no. 100%.
But if you're one dude, you're not going to kill a dragon.
No.
You need
a
cleric.
You need a priest. Yep. Yeah, no, yeah, and I agree 100%. It's interesting, and I guess that's really, yeah, that's what I'm doing it for.
Yeah.
Like if I had this in my 20s, I'd probably be a little different person, maybe, but I'm still a gamer, so I would just be a bigger gamer. Maybe
Yeah.
my store would be bigger. I don't know.
But
I
yeah.
know some of my friends that I played with back then would still be hanging out all the time because they wouldn't have to go through the hanging out with, people in their houses and having issues like that. Because that like you touched on it a little bit when you're gaming at someone else's house and there's a rift that happens. There's nowhere to go. Like
Yeah, there's
the
no way to
person,
patch it. Yeah.
if you're coming over to my house and you cause a problem with me, like we have an argument, you're in my house now. Now it's personal.
Yeah.
And now I don't want you over in my house because if you're in my house and you piss me off, that's personal.
Yeah.
You piss me off at the store. I go home, you go home.
Yeah,
This is just a neutral territory.
you
We'll
don't
come
have
back tomorrow.
and you don't have to dance around house
Right.
rules or anything like that.
Right.
And it's clearly defined. Everybody pretty much knows the rules here. It's
Right.
pretty simple. It's don't be a dink,
Yeah, don't be a dick.
and then clean up after yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can do that, you're more than welcome.
I think that might be my first rule in the Discord rules. So just don't be a dick.
Yeah, don't be a
like
dink, yeah.
literally just don't be a dick. Like
Yeah.
it's not that hard to figure out.
So, anyways, that's some of our plans for 2024, and a little bit more about us now that we're
Yeah.
officially doing this.
Yeah. I think
Um,
yeah, we're gonna grow the community quite a bit. I think we're work a little more on building the Discord community. That's been really fun, and it's something that took off a little quicker than I thought it would. And I think it's because like your community, my son's community, my daughter's community, all kind of jumped onto our server because they all had little fractions of people, but necessarily not enough to make it worth.
Well, your son and your daughter are both ambassadors in gaming.
Isn't that weird?
People gravitate to
like,
the game with
what
them.
the heck?
And I have the same
same
curse.
Yeah, curse, blessing, whatever it is. Yeah.
So
no.
it's just a matter of you had 3 people who had a network of people that they gamed with, and they brought people in who they thought would be a good fit for the community.
And now, like some of those guys you brought in, some of the guys my son brought in and my daughter's brought in, we play games without them now.
Yeah, without the ambassador.
Like
Jen Fears.
Jen Fears.
Yeah.
He comes to play Mech Warrior with us.
Yeah.
You're not on.
Yeah.
Jen's like, he doesn't care. He wants to hang out
Yeah,
and
he
play
just wants to
games.
play games.
My son brought in a couple guys that are pretty cool that'll play with anybody.
Yep.
They just want to hang out and play games. And my daughter's brought in a bunch of people.
Yep.
And pretty much, yeah, I've played games with those, and she's not around. She's doing something else,
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
kind of our goal, I think.
The building a gaming community could be a long, arduous process, but it is extraordinarily rewarding.
Yeah, it is. And as long as you can, I think we just need good ambassadors. I think we already have them. So
Yep.
I'm pretty happy with where it's going. I can't wait to see what the rest of this year comes. I think if everybody's health stays in and your family's health and my family's health all stay good, I think we're going to have a good year.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think we might even be able to monetize this a little bit. That would be crazy.
Imagine making a living doing this.
I know.
Anyways, again, I'd like to thank you all for listening in 2023. It's been a blast doing this every week.
Yep.
And
fun.
we hope you guys continue to listen and maybe tell your friends about us moving forward. So.
Yeah. Even our friends from Germany.
Yeah.
Talking to you.
Yeah. So auf Wiedersehen and goodbye.
There you go.
Take care, everyone.